Thank you, Amechi.
Now, we know the economic impact will be quite huge, but we don't know how huge it may end up being, especially on how we manage the outcome. The World Bank and the IMF coming out with predictions that the whole of sub-Saharan Africa, all the countries down the Sahel region would go into economic recession as a result of COVID-19. What are your perspectives?
I think the World Bank and the rest of the development institutions may actually be stating the case very mildly. It does not require any magician to just imagine what the consequence of this would be. What we're already experiencing is a lot. How much more what is about to behold post-COVID-19? The reality is that today, everything is on the southern move. Consumption is declining. Some of these countries are already so highly geared, and they are getting involved in a lot of massive economic stimulus. And they are going to have to deal with huge unemployment situation. I mean, the US alone has added about 9 million unemployment citizens within their country. And if you come to Nigeria's case, is a complete basket case, I can tell you. And if you think about the way also the oil revenue has been, the price has been declining. At some point got up to 20, now 26, now inching up a little bit. But it tells you that we are going to experience what I consider a perfect storm. Storm because we're not going to be dealing with economic recession. We are actually going to be dealing with economic depression that will be added to it, lockdowns, health issues, and in some cases, weaker government.
So not just a recession, but depression, that sustained recession.
Yes. That's what I mean. I actually think that, first and foremost, nobody has the magic wand to get hold of the projections and predictions at this point. Nobody can even tell you when will COVID-19 be over. I mean, you look at cases where, California has already extended their lockdown till end of May, and some are going to extend up to June, July. Now, this is just the lockdown. Come with the lockdown and all the consequences of this, sectors that are going to be grounded. I mean, in the tourism, in the travel, and all of those spaces where you actually have the highest employment of labor, you are going to have a complete zero, returns. So first quarter is already negative this year. Second quarter is going to be extremely negative, and you're going to keep having sustained recession. So therefore, we are going to get to depression. So the quicker we understand this, the seriousness of this, the better for us. That way, we can begin to think, both as government, as individuals, how do we protect ourselves? And how do we devise smart strategies to overcome the challenges we're going to be facing? So certainly, we are going to have enormous, consequences, and it's going to be across all levels, whether it's unemployment, whether it's receipt of, revenue, whether it's FX movement, and people can have their guess, but Naira-dollar parity is going to get to all-time high. And the essence of all of this is not to put out fear there or panic, but rather to see how we can come together as a total whole unit to see how we can find solutions going forward.
And solutions have been flying around. The government announced plans to borrow up to $9 billion US. Some of the opinions are saying that we need to pursue debt forgiveness, some moratorium on payback. A lot of people are talking about what you made reference to earlier, devaluation, the state-owned oil company saying this is bye-bye to subsidy regime. In all this mix, what do you think is the right strategy for the Nigerian government?
I think a combination of these will help. We definitely need to pursue debt forgiveness. There is absolutely no reason why we shouldn't. This is an imported, situation, imported disease, imported implications. So if Africa and in fact Nigeria had been just on their own, possibly this wouldn't arise. And we also know that if you do not pursue this, you will make it impossible for us to meet our obligations when they fall due. So that would do us massive good. And of course,
when we are talking of debt forgiveness, China becomes an option, or perhaps the first option.
China is our #1 option. US is also #2. And of course, the development institutions, the World Bank and the IMF, all of these bodies, they need to consider massive debt forgiveness. If possible, a complete zero write-off. So what that means is we start off on a cleaner slate going forward. So as we borrow anew, we will inject that into our economic stimulus because we need massive economic stimulus. Businesses are going to die. I'm not discussing here lowering revenue. Some businesses are going to disappear because if you understand how businesses run, a lot of these businesses have fixed-term contracts. They've borrowed money. There are interest rates around, skyrocketing, and interest amount that they pay also is going to increase. And there's zero revenue or lower revenue that will not be able to match with the debt obligations. And therefore, how does central bank in each of the governments, especially in Nigeria, also come in to step up and see how stimulus can be shifted to the banks to be able to forgive the debts owed by private businesses? Because for me,
you're quite right. If you are talking about debt forgiveness at the multilateral international level, we should also take a look at within the context of the Nigerian Federation, the private sector, the banks and SMEs. Are there moratoriums? Are there possible write-offs?
Actually, that's the point I was making here. Whatever we do, we should actually look at who are going to be the ultimate beneficiaries. What we need to focus on right now are households and small businesses. Households and small businesses. And to achieve this, it means that we need to go to the books of these small businesses. Loans that are borrowed at, in some cases, 30%, 25%, can actually be lowered to 5%. Now, what happens there? How do you bring a combination of what the bank may need to suffer and what the central bank may need to forbear? And that's the perfect combination that can help to inject life into the businesses of the smaller entities, MSMEs that we have. Because in the end, these are going to be the life wire for us to get back to the normalcy that we seek. The reality is that, of course, you also will not overlook the big businesses, the PLCs. You need everybody to be rescued at this point, especially businesses that are mostly impacted. And I can go into what type of businesses. All of them will need some help at this point in time. This is what exactly governments in the Western world are doing. So I want to advocate for a combination of debt forgiveness, both at the national level, subnational, and also at the business level.
Okay, now what toll will it take on the big banks based on the proposal you threw up? Their balance sheets would have some smiles on it. Yes, moratorium write-off, but at the end of it all, stress on the financial system will also come with catastrophic effects.
Can you try to understand that question?
Now, I was wondering about how the banks could cope if we go ahead to implement extension of moratorium.
It's not for the bank to suffer the consequence. We must get our banks to remain strong. I'm talking about central bank coming in to help the commercial banks to be able to effect these changes. So if a bank has lent money at 30%, perhaps it could knock out 5% there, but that will bring it to maybe 20%. Maybe CBN should take care of 15%, and ultimately the end user is paying 5%. So it will be such that the banks are not going to be worse off. The strength is not going to be weakened because we need the banks to be strong at this point in time. So for me as a banker, I understand all the theories. I know what is possible and what is not possible. So these are also businesses that we must sustain because they become the life wire for us to get out of this mess. So I want to say that central bank has a bigger role to play. And to be able to play this role is not just going to be about printing more money from the minting company, but also to seek for sources of funding externally, and that's why engaging IMF, borrowing additional money may be helpful, while we also seek forgiveness for the existing debt that we have at the moment.
Yes, you've mentioned the IMF. The Nigerian government said it's going to draw down the 3.5 billion naira of its special rights. It's also looking at elsewhere for other foreign loans. What impact will it make?
The impact of borrowing additionally from IMF, is that what you mean?
And other sources. 3.5 million of our rights from IMF and some Africa Development Bank, and also totaling about 9.6 or so. Some people are not quite comfortable with that proposed move.
I actually think that we can afford to secure additional support from IMF without dropping any rights. I don't think it should be at any consequence. The reason is the reality we face today is Africa needs help. Unfortunately, we shouldn't be saying this at this kind of time. We are by far the richest continent in this on the face of the earth. It's just that we have
in terms of resources.
Yeah, in terms of resources, and in fact, what I also want to, if we have time to talk about this, the future also is going to be bright for Africa, because with what technology is doing, it becomes something that can, what I can call, bring equality to every continent, and therefore the fact that we are lacking in infrastructure and all of that does not make us weaker in terms of our ability to leverage the power of technology to overcome our challenges. So what I'm saying therefore is we need to be able to seek the forgiveness and support, and hopefully get our acts together as government, as leadership, so that if we must face this kind of trouble in the future, God forbid, other countries should come to Africa for help. That's what it should be, if only we can get our acts together. But let's leave the issue of governance and leadership. We know where we are on that. At the moment, we already were at a very, very sorry state, I must say, weak position economically. We were already discussing how IMF was dropping the projection before this COVID-19, and then also moved on to the issue of how much debt overhang we have, and which unfortunately hadn't been applied, judiciously towards investment. Rather, in most of the cases, actually borrowing for consumption. And we were dealing with all this, and then insecurity and what have you. And now this is COVID coming to complicate matter. Any willing development agency who's been engaging with Nigeria and other countries of the world who have taken advantage of Nigeria and African countries, this is time to give back. And they don't have to provide this succor by taking away certain rights that we have, that will eventually enable us to get out of the wounds as quickly as possible.
Okay, the Nigerian government has commenced move to slash its annual budget, the 2020 budget, by as much as 20%. There's talks between the executive and the legislature towards that. States of the federation are also following suit. It's one step, but the issue is impact it to make on the general welfare and well-being of the citizens as well as the economy.
I actually think that 20% is a little cut, I must tell you. We're discussing
20%.
Yeah, yes, to 20%. We are not going to be discussing what is the best situation. We're going to be discussing what is our option. The only option we have right now is to make do with the much that we have and be smart about that to 8 trillion. We may need to go even further. And beyond that is that some of these get to productive areas, infrastructure, development, and not consumption. Unfortunately, you already know this is why debt forgiveness is a magic that we require. If you take out almost about 60% that we use in servicing debt issues, Saudi Arabia and Russia resolving their issues, perhaps the Brent price may get up to, we actually can get out of this quicker than we may imagine. And therefore, but also at the state level, to get smarter, this is a time to cut any kind of waste resources. Think carefully about how we deploy resources to achieve the ultimate end, which is to support up and make us as independent as possible from this crisis.
You mentioned earlier that perhaps the 20 projected, perhaps my own thinking here. The impact on our revenue, crude oil, the huge debt servicing we are facing, coupled with the huge budget deficit that the 2020 package came with. Considering the huge drain on economy, on resources, on other budget much more below 20%?
That's the point. It's going to be worse than that, and this is just to create some form of, positive sentiment. We need to.
Okay, we appear to have a lost signal with Valentine coming on with his perspectives on the impact of the COVID-19 on the economy and take to put it on the right track, what many countries of the world are doing individually and at the multilateral level. Make efforts to get back to him. We'll take a break. Okay, just before the break, we have re-established contact.
Thank you so much. I'm not sure what happened with the network. So the reality is we are already at consequences on oil revenue because of the price where it is today. But beyond that, you've also mentioned customs. Import is going to be almost at zero at some point.
FIRS will find it quite tough.
That's where I'm coming to. Number one, they're not going to be able to pay any tax this year. Number two, even the future one will be impaired, mostly from the CITs pay, from revenue, from profit. And when you have almost production and the consumption also declining, even the VAT and other transaction taxes are going to be at the lowest minimum. Now, with this affected, and what you see, therefore, is a much higher impact and sustained. So I think that we need to tell ourselves the truth. We need to work out the numbers, and actually at this point in time, we can make do with as much data as we can get. Unfortunately, we also live in an era where we have
Okay, another freeze. We will re-establish some contact, and when we do that, we want to find out from the business executive, Valentine Ozigbo, how indeed we can adjust the Nigerian economy, but every other economy. I mentioned smart governance, the government making efforts to cut costs, cutting down what other efforts should we make, cutting down huge number of costs, perhaps past reports, such as the Steve Orasanya report that recommended cost cutting may be quite key. The recurrent expenditure aspect of our budget now perhaps is the time to do some soul searching and come out with indeed mental decisions such that will indeed bring back a part. I will continue to see if we can reestablish contact with Ozigbo. But in the meantime, there's stories pertaining to COVID-19. The 11th of the 14-day lockdown in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, which is Adon Onye, who has been monitoring the exercise, reports that the complicity of security operatives at home order is our guest to indeed round off our discussions. Before we lost you, the negative effects, of course, and the need to cut down costs as one of the options. Removal of subsidy is one, can indeed slash down the huge cost of government.
Yeah, anything that is considered wasteful must be cut at this time. Anything that is non-essential, this is not time for frivolities. This is not time for jamboree. And it's also a time we need to have deep introspection on how to fix our economy. It's a time we need to look at key fundamental issues and to overcome these kind of challenges that we face on a more sustainable manner. Fundamental quick interventions, but we also need to look at some fundamental things we need to do. And I must say that we can't be talking, but also be talking about what happens at individual levels. We need to say to ourselves,
the private sector level. What roles for the private sector? What sacrifice?
Navigate. How about even survive? Sacrifice is that how do they even navigate? How do they even survive? Remember, everything is coming down. Everything is coming down on them. Activity, and in some cases, massive unemployment, and in some cases, they have to deal with accruing their already retirement benefits they have to deal with. And how do they survive? And this is, again, time to conserve, to save, to invest smartly. And the same thing that goes with the individuals at home. when you have money, when money becomes king, this is when you need to keep as much stock as if it's time to be generous. Because if we're talking about how to overcome these challenges, hunger is a major one we're going to deal with. And if you're looking to government to provide all the palliative, well, you're wasting your time. And we have to be as generous, far more generous than we've ever been in our lives. And look at the vulnerable. So when you think about people around you, look at the vulnerable, the people in your local communities, figure out how to help. And because government, even if they have all the money, which they don't have, they are incapable of helping, because we don't even know how many we are. We don't even know where we are. We don't know how next. It's still going to not get right. So how do we help one another? We are all levels, and begin to perform certain actions that can help. We can overcome this, and then take other steps to make sure we move in a more sustainable manner.